And we are
Michael, I
live.
believe we are live.
In that case, you must be New York, Vinnie, and I bet you're in Seattle. I'll just
And,
bet that.
and I'm going to throw a little money on the fact that you're Michael Knight and that you are in the beautiful city of Pasadena, California.
Rainy Pasadena.
Is it raining down there?
Yeah, sort of came in without a warning.
Well, I that's a good thing, right? I mean, I know that you guys have had snow and kind of weather that you can't believe. Meanwhile, up here, we're a little worried because it hasn't rained as much as it should.
Hasn't rained enough, right?
So, the things like, especially up in BC now, we're seeing fires uh, that again they've never seen before. I mean, you, it's pretty interesting when you stop watching the American news and start watching the Canadian news every night. But
Keep
their
track.
lead story
Yeah.
is how BC and all these provinces are burning. So you can't get away from it.
And keep track of the Canadian Rockies, because without the Canadian Rockies, there would be no Columbia River. The mighty Columbia comes from someplace, and it ain't from the store down at the corner. You got to go to you got to go to Canada, and if Canada doesn't cooperate, there will be no Columbia River. So watch out for changes there.
And Canada is, as uh, Canada is want at times not to cooperate.
Far away from Canada, down in the jungles of Colombia, I have a song that we're going to write, Vinny, called 40 Days in the Jungle, dedicated to the kids who managed. There was four. How many kids were there?
I think four
Well, four.
the kids in Colombia, which has
Four
been
for 40, it should be called.
an incredible journey when you think about it from the perspective of those kids. Number one, but number two, from the media coverage, who said they were lost, then they were found, then they weren't found, now they're found again.
I like the fact that what saved them was they were indigenous kids that at a young age were taken into the jungle and shown what you could eat, what you must avoid, how you survive, and how you drink, how you find water, and that saved their lives.
You wouldn't imagine that out of four kids from Chevy Chase, Maryland, let's say.
Yeah, they'd have been dead long ago. But I would like the kids to explain how you remembered what you had learned from your grandfather, how you went into the jungle, found it, and survived on it. Did you have any trouble? Did you have trouble finding the right plant? Did you have trouble finding water? Did you learn how to do it right away? How did you remember? Aren't you happy you remembered? By the way, we did an equivalency test for Los Angeles tech executives. The equivalent of 40 days in the jungle would be 6 minutes stuck in Trader Joe's frozen aisle.
you can get stuck in there
And
for a
there's
long
and
time,
and there's no guarantee that they would have survived because they have no
especially if they
survival,
switch things up a little bit. That's
no
the thing you
survival
always have to
skill.
worry about Trader Joe's is you think that something's there, and then you go back and it's not there anymore, and you're going, wait a minute, I've been craving the lemon ice cream for days, and now
We,
it's not there.
oh no, we have it. We just wanted to see if you can find it.
Yeah, we're not going to put it out today. We're going to have some fun, which
My
is what Vince.
My Trader Joe's just did that, Vinny. They switched everything. They moved everything from where it used to be to a new place and put something else in its place. And it's like being on acid because you're in the right place. You think it looks familiar, but all the walls are moving in the wrong way. And so you have to continue your search, your journey, your quest is to try and find the right ice cream, and it's not going to be easy.
Well, yeah, it's kind of tough. Although it would be hard for me to equate the those kids to being stuck in Trader Joe's, but for tech executives, I guess it is something
Yeah,
like that. But when I saw that story, I couldn't help but go back and think about survival skills that you learn when you're a kid that you don't learn today when you're a kid.
no.
You don't learn, I mean, when we were kids, we left the house at 6 o'clock in the morning and didn't come back until 6 o'clock at night.
Otherwise,
And
you would
we
get
were
fed.
out, you know, surviving. I mean, we were out hanging out with our friends and, you did things, jobs for people, or you, um, there was always ways to make a couple of bucks to get a soda. It wasn't even a couple of bucks; it was a couple of cents back then.
Yeah, right.
50 cents, you could get a hamburger and a soda and get lunch. If you didn't have the money to do it, and your friends didn't have any money, there was always a way to figure something out. I mean, it really was a training in how to survive. And kids, because they are so protected today, and whether that's right or wrong, who knows? Who really knows how this? I think we're starting to see how it turns out when you protect the kids like that,
Well, the
because
elders
we
of
have
the
a
elder,
generation of kids who don't know how to survive on their own.
but the elders in this particular group of people did their job. They taught
Yeah,
the kids what had been taught to them. If you get stuck in the jungle, you can eat this, you can drink this, you mustn't touch this, and watch out for that.
and also the other thing that struck me is about how even at such a young age they had the instinct and the foresight and the maturity to protect their youngest
Yeah, 1 year old.
1 year old kid. I mean, how I mean, a 1 year old kid is never going to remember what happened. Although I suspect the People magazine in 20 years will have a front page story with the 1 year old kid, standing there going, I survived the jungle, when most of the world has turned into a jungle again.
Yeah,
But
maybe, and that's not all they survived. I didn't realize until today, that they also survived the plane crash that killed all the adults.
right, I mean, it's trauma on top of trauma on top of survival.
Yep.
I mean, obviously, there's going to be a movie, made out of this thing. I mean, there's no way that actually they probably have made the movie already, just not with kids. Um, and you go back and you think about how these children must have been taught by their elders, as you say, and I'll bet you that if you found out those methods, that you would today, in the United States, if you tried to do that, probably be reported to Child Protective Services and hauled away, or your kids may be taken away from you
just to
for
be
teaching them how to eat berries and roots and
just to be on
bugs.
the safe. Yes, we're just being on the safe side. We're erring in terms of caution. Why teach your child how to survive? That seems dangerous for their life.
I mean, it's really, when you think about it, it's fascinating. I mean, fascinating that they survived. Number one, fascinating also for just how it proves so much of the psychology of today's parenting, probably fairly wrong. That you need to toughen these kids up a little bit. That you need to not coddle them, to not tell them they're right all the time. To show them that, no, this is how you survive in the world that you're in.
From now on, for people visiting Colombia, there's probably going to be a pamphlet, What You Can Eat in the Jungle. I never
Written
thought of
by
it
these
until now.
kids when they learn how to write. It's pretty.
I wonder what their education consists of, other than what their elders taught them.
Well, I guess they got the days off of school, for the time they were in the jungle. I
They get,
guess they won't make them
they,
make it up.
no, they get jungle credit, which is actually better than learning Spanish.
If you were in the New York City public school system, they'd do extra days to. You have to go to school on weekends to make it up.
Excuse me, I have something in my eye, and it's preventing me from seeing. So there you go, 40 days in the jungle. I'm the first one to go down. What happened? Well, he got something in his eye. It was never quite right after that.
I don't know. I probably could. I don't think. I mean, you say you don't think you could, but reality is you don't know until you're put in that situation.
Plus, you don't know on day 39. Come on, guys, let's hold out. Tomorrow they're going to find us. It doesn't look good on day 39.
Well, I think probably if you're that young, maybe it was a long time ago since I was that young, but maybe you just don't know any better. You think that this is after a while, you start to think, well, this is my life. This is what this is how I live. This is what they were preparing me for. You have no concept of, the future. You just live right in the present. When you're 4 years old and 6 years old and 10 years old, right? You don't live to think about the future. You live for what cartoons are on that day, or in this case, what do I, what do I have to do this morning when I get up to make a fire, to eat something? You probably don't need fire,
I
but
don't think
yeah,
they had. I don't think they had fire, did they?
I don't know if they had fire or not, but from what I understand, there's a lot of water
A lot of
in
rain.
in the jungle, and so it was fairly easy for them to find water. And who knows what they ate? They probably ate bugs. Who knows? Maybe the oldest one was smart enough to kill a small animal
I thought
and cook it.
they learned how to eat the right plants. That's what they were being
Yeah,
taught.
they figured they figured that they knew from their parents, obviously the older ones. Again, goes back to teaching your kids how to survive, protecting them and removing them from the environment, but teaching them how to function when things are thrown at you in life. It's what baseball used to teach us, Michael.
Baseball teaches us that you must act before the trading deadline of August 1st, or you will not be able to advance in the standings.
Not
That's
usually.
that's the Giants. Of course, the Giants would trade away like the left hand of their infield to get a hitter who trips over first base on his first day. We slip him to the Mariners for Tom York or whatever his name is.
Uh,
Tom
Ford, isn't it?
Tom Ford.
Yeah, Ford.
And we'd be down two players and out of our opportunities. Trading deadline passes as the Giants fumble yet another opportunity.
Well, it's as you look at the standings this year, there are so many teams that are in it as we sit. What are we? A month and 2 weeks away from the trading deadline. There are so many teams that are in it
That want the
that
edge.
it makes it. It makes. I mean, what do the Mariners do? They're a couple of games under 500. They don't look like contenders at all. But last year, they did not look like contenders either at this point in the season. Then they made a couple of moves. They found a couple of people that were on their club that broke out of a slump, and they got to the playoffs by the skin of their skinny teeth there, but they got there. I
How
don't
would you
know
like?
that
How would you
that's
like
going
to
to happen
be?
this year.
How would you like to be San Diego? There's a team that is people that line up with a lot of money, Vinny. And right now, what's facing them is the fact that they either spend more money or they're going to be a second division team that cannot be, whose lack of success really cannot be explained on paper.
Well, Michael, we know, and I know that money does not always equal winning in baseball.
No, and it's funny, but it
You can
doesn't.
grow. I mean, again, case in point, the Mariners, who were the first team in the history of baseball to have $100 million payroll and lose 100 games.
And that was not easy. That took some planning and a lot of
It took some
executives.
work. It
Took
took
some
some
real
work.
work.
It wasn't just, it was a little bit of work. And excuse me,
A little bit of work.
work there. But it did, it does go to show you that, that not that. Look at the Mets. I mean, they went out here. They got, I don't. Listen. I was excited as anybody when Verlander and Scherzer wound up there at the same time. But in the excitement, got lost the fact that these guys are as old and broken down as we are.
It hurts. Where?
and
Everywhere.
you spent a phenomenal amount of money to get these guys. And listen, Steve Cohen has all the money, more money than he knows what to do with. So it's good that he's putting it in some people's pockets instead of just hoarding it all up on his own. But money does not always, just like money doesn't buy you happiness, money doesn't always buy you a pennant. It's how good you are at scouting, how good you are at knowing who's a baseball player and who's just can put up some stats. Which is one of my contentions about baseball today, is that you have 9 million stats, but none of these stats tell you who a baseball player is, who a guy who, when it gets tough, knows how to get themselves out of the mess.
Can you think of an example in recent years of somebody going from team A to team B and making all the difference in the world, catching on fire, taking them to the playoffs? I can't myself.
In recent years, well,
Anytime.
I mean, I think Randy Johnson certainly, when he went to Houston, got them into the playoffs almost single handedly. His pitching down the stretch made the difference in them making the playoffs and then advancing. I think they won a round into the playoffs, if I'm not mistaken. Um, I'm trying to think of who else in more recent years. Um, usually it happens with pitching.
Yeah, it has to.
Usually you get that one pitcher that will win you. I think Randy won 10-1 down the stretch that year.
That's
Uh,
crucial.
which was crucial, was the difference. Um, which also pissed me off because he was like 1-10 with the Mariners. So he was without a doubt,
Yeah.
he was dogging it. But I don't know that there's one player I can look at. I'm sure if I go back and I really think about it, that we'll find a player, a couple of players that made somewhat of a difference. But I don't know that I've ever seen a job of carrying a team on a player's back like I did that year with Randy. I mean, he really carried Houston on his back, and then, I mean, let's face it, carried the Diamondbacks
Yeah.
on his back after that. But they had the basics of a good team around him. So I think there are instances of it, but I don't think that there's a magic bullet that in baseball, because it is a very individual game. I don't know that there's a magic bullet that comes in and just turns the team around.
One thing that executives have a hard time with, especially with their team, using the Mariners as an example, a couple games under 500, do we spend the money and make a difference? Do we trade for pitching? Do we trade for hitting? Do we do nothing and hope that something changes? And those are your choices, really. Spend, trade, spend and trade, spend and trade
Well,
successfully, unsuccessfully, or do nothing and hope for the best.
I think that a lot of it hinges on what your circumstance is. Like if I'm the Pirates general manager this year, and I'm tempted because my team is on top in the Central and looking pretty good. I think they took 2 out of 3 from the Mets over the, and that's not an indicator if you're looking good or bad. But they seem to have the core of a bunch of great young players with more coming down in the minor leagues. They seem to be in the same place they were back in 2011, 2012, when they got good and had that nice little period where they made the playoffs almost every year and were good. And so if you're the Pirates, what do? You have a gaggle of young talent that I'm sure is coveted by many major league teams.
Trade power for pitching. That's what people do.
Will you be able to, will you be able to pull off a deal and sacrifice a bunch of your future for, the reward of getting to the playoffs or getting to the World Series this year? We saw that here in '97 when, everybody faulted Woodward, who was the general manager at the time, for making a couple of deals that sent what was it? Maybe the biggest fleece trade that a lot of people thought was why is it escaping? Oh, Jason Varitek and the reliever for I forget who they got from the Red Sox. But for Woody, the point was to get to the playoffs. That's what they had to do because they were trying to keep the ball club in Seattle. And the only way they were going to do it was to get, was to get to the playoffs.
They needed some results.
They needed some immediate results. So Woody had to probably make some trades that, under normal circumstances, if he could have gone out and signed free agents, he wouldn't have made. And of course, Varitek and I forget the pitcher's name anyway, went on to have great careers. Heathcliff Slocum and Paul Spoljaric, who I believe Slocum came from the Red Sox. I think Spoljaric and Timlin came from the Blue Jays for Jose Cruz Jr.
Whoa.
Who, and I remember this. I mean, everybody said, "Oh, this kid's a future Hall of Famer. He's this, he's that, he's everything." All that, and he wasn't. And the Mariners made the playoffs that year. So the trades were successful.
They didn't stop the advancement.
Right. They got them to a place where they had postseason play, which is what they wanted. But they paid a very dear price. Bobby Valentine once said, the trading deadline is like going to 7-Eleven for a gallon of milk.
Yeah.
I mean, you get it, but you paid a lot more for it than you would in the off season because people know that they can hold you up. Valentine was 100% right with that, and I always believe that to be true. Is that the trades at the trading deadlines are tough trades because you got to give something up. People don't give you a player because you're Seattle or the Giants or the Mets or anybody. They don't just give you. I mean, these people, the guy at the other end of the phone is just as crafty as you are.
And if you need power, there's no way around it. You're going to have to buy it with pitching invariably. That's always going to be part of the deal.
Yeah, because I
just traded our left fielder. What'd you get? A shortstop? No. Call him back. We have 3 shortstops. Now we don't have a left fielder, and we have 4 shortstops.
Well, anybody who's played stickball or punchball in New York knows you don't need a left fielder.
There's not a lot of room out there in left. There's just Stoops.
If you don't have a kid that can play out there, you just don't. Or you have the worst thing is the official left fielder who actually plays left field for both sides. Or the what was the other one that we used to use? The official pitcher.
The official pitcher.
Yeah, we would get a kid that, and you can get into the game. You can get into the game when somebody else comes along. But for now, you're the official pitcher. You pitch to both sides because we have 16 guys. You're the 17th, so you pitch, and then if another guy comes along, then we'll have equal sides, and you can go out and play and get it.
That's a big team. You might take the field many times with 4 or 5 guys.
Yeah, we always had don't play one side of the field. There was a lot of games you played where there was no third baseman, no left fielder. And sometimes no shortstop.
I watched the Phillies manager get thrown out of the game for something to do with the pitching clock, and I never turned on the sound, so I couldn't figure out the details of it. But he went out to ask a question about the pitching clock not resetting, and got into an argument with the home plate umpire, which got him into an argument with the second base umpire, all without any sound. I don't know what the hell they were saying or what they were trying to discuss, and I didn't have the play-by-play. And it was just hilarious because I knew from the start he was going to get kicked out, and I wondered, well, what does he do to get kicked out? He just kept getting madder and more vociferous and more animated, and then bingo, he was gone. And I don't know what it was about, but whatever it was, the umpires were very touchy about their pitching clock not resetting.
It's tough to get thrown out of a game today. It takes a little practice. In the old days, you just curse somebody out and you're gone.
Or do
But
balls and
nowadays,
strikes.
it takes a little it takes a little expertise to get thrown out of a game. Because there's less to argue about. Instant replay has made sure that it takes that element out of the game. I'm not saying it can't be done. I'm just saying because obviously it has been, but I think it takes extra effort now to get thrown out of a game.
Well, if you question the pitch clock, aren't you questioning balls and strikes, which you are not allowed to do, and that puts you right into some very sticky water, or deep water, I should say, sticky wicket, and the
I
thumb
like
is coming.
sticky water.
Yeah, the sticky water.
Have you ever swam in the East River?
Never had the pleasure. Thank you.
Then you know what sticky water is. If you had.
I saw it, and that's as close as I wanted to get.
There was, I can remember swimming at Rockaway Beach, and you swam in jet fuel because the planes on coming into Kennedy used to dump fuel into the ocean there. And more than a few times, you got on the bus coming home from Rockaway, and it smelled like a gas station.
It smelled like that jet fuel cost $10 a gallon. That's expensive cologne.
Yeah, and you had to think it didn't have a great effect on your skin either.
Probably not. But I know the airlines are deeply regretful of all that.
Oh yeah, they're going to send everybody send you a drink coupon.
Send you a quarter gallon of jet fuel.
Sure, on fire. The teacher to complain against us again.
Vinnie, there's a note in All Access this morning. They need court reporters in Miami. About 100 of them. No. No. In fact, the network MSNBC sent 2 people to Miami so far. One to stand outside the courthouse and one to stand outside the courthouse in a different place.
Yeah, CNN had the same thing going on this morning. And to be quite honest with you, I'm so sick of it and sick of the Trump coverage. I'll probably watch tomorrow. WABC was running live with pictures of his plane.
Yeah.
I mean, no wonder he gets all his free publicity. Why wouldn't he lead these people on and say outrageous things? If you give him he's like a child. If you give him the attention, he's just going to scream and say things more.
I think you were right the other day. I think it was Friday. You questioned what the Secret Service would do if Trump had to go to prison, because he's facing 100 years in federal prison. And that's just on these charges. Forget the rest of it, that he still has to go for January 6th and for his charges in Georgia. So that would mean that the Secret Service would have 100 years of responsibility should Donald Trump live that long in terms of protecting him. And I think they would have to assign agents to walk around the prison with him. So imagine your luck. You finally passed all the tests. You got assigned to the White House. You're in the Secret Service, and your job is to go to prison with Donald Trump.
Yeah, it's I mean, again, we go back to what exactly do you lose? There's no precedent. There's nothing in any law, any federal law, that says if you are convicted of a crime, a felony, that you and were a former president, that you lose Secret Service protection, you lose your office stipend, you lose all of the things that you are entitled to as an ex-president.
Your pension,
all of these things. He'll probably be getting all of that, because you got to figure if he does get convicted, his lawyers are going to go to court and try to appeal it. So that's going to take time. Then they're going to go to court if the appeal is denied, and he does have to go to jail. It's going to be, I don't know, a couple of years. By the time that happens, he's going to be 85.
Mm-hmm.
He's not in the best shape in the world.
It depends who you ask. There's a Navy doctor who was paid in Robert Hall suits to say that he was the healthiest man he'd ever met.
Well, and also, is he going to have the ambulance and, all the other stuff that goes along with being an ex-president?
He's got a line of clothing from Jack LaLanne that he wears when he works out. He's really quite fetching.
It's kind of funny you mentioned Jack LaLanne. I was actually this weekend looking for something on YouTube and ran across a bunch of Jack LaLanne reruns.
Always a good guest. Never ever at a loss for words. Jack LaLanne is there to fill that slot.
He was something else, man. I mean, he really was one of the first. I don't know. You want to call it self-help gurus? You want to call it, people who, because his whole thing, everybody thinks of him in terms of exercise, or they think of him in terms of the gyms, the studios that he had, but he had this kind of positive message about things. About
you can do it if you do it. Just do it. You can do it if you do it.
Yeah. I mean, you have to get off the couch. You have to get up. You have to do things. You have to live your life. I mean, it was a lot. He had a lot going on. I never realized as a kid watching him, and if you're my age, your exposure to Jack LaLanne was from your mother watching him.
He did a lot of his shows live out of San Francisco.
Yeah, I think every woman in America was tuning into Jack LaLanne.
And speaking of San Francisco, later on in his life, as he was getting into his 60s and 70s, he would celebrate his birthday by swimming the Golden Gate.
Yes,
from one side to the other, with his hands and feet tied and pulling a rowboat with his teeth. And that's how he would swim the Golden Gate for each birthday.
He did
that into his 70s.
He was quite a guy. I mean, not an ounce of fat on the dude. I mean, he wore those
zip suits.
Well, he wore the zip suit, but the interesting thing about Jack LaLanne that I'd never noticed before, but now with high definition, big screen, you notice, is that he had dancing shoes on.
Wow, workout shoes.
He had
ballet shoes
or Capizios, but he had ballet shoes on. So I could only imagine what the mucho macho men of the day were saying about Jack.
Well, you can say whatever you wanted. He showed up.
He kicked your ass. If you're going to say something about it, you probably don't want to say it too loud.
Now, the funny thing is, if you in 1955 wanted to join a gym, you might have great difficulty in a major city in finding one. You might find a club, an athletic club. That would be one thing. But to join a gym in downtown Manhattan in 1955, you were going to have to look for one.
Yeah. Usually it was a boxing gym. Usually it was a place where amateur boxers trained.
Right.
It wasn't what you see today. Not a mirror in the freaking place.
No, that's not what we're not about mirrors.
And he was one of the first ones to open up to make that accessible to people with his his franchise. I mean, it was a great idea. Obviously, he made a ton of money off of it, but he was one of the first people to franchise a gym.
In a time when the idea of lifting a weight was very exotic. It was something that most people never did. In fact, a lot of athletes never did it. This is back in the days before when college football teams didn't even have weight rooms.
Well, the popular belief was in baseball, at least, is that all those muscles made you slower.
That's what my father said. That's what my father said about that. Of course, Aaron Judge might show you the other side of that equation.
Right. Well, I think people were built differently too, to be honest, Michael.
Yeah. Oh, there wasn't
Yeah,
anybody his size playing ball.
yeah, I mean, what we look at as an athlete today, in those days, didn't exist. It was in a
Not
movie.
only that, if somebody showed up and he was 6'11", the coach would say, "What am I going to do with you? You're useless. You're too big. No way. What am I going to do?"
Right. And finally, people came along and said, I'll show you what to do with them. I mean,
Yeah.
pitchers purposely wouldn't work out because they didn't want their arms to get too muscular because it would slow down their fastball.
Strange belief.
Yeah, I mean, when we look back at it now, it was, but, we also thought that smoking was good for you.
Chesterfields, especially, by the way.
Yeah,
They
I
don't.
mean,
They don't. They don't clog your lungs with the silly filters.
you had a number of, of athletes plugging cigarettes and cigars all over the place. After the game, Lou Gehrig likes to come in and smoke a cigarette. Well,
He relaxes that way.
It's outstanding, and it is mild.
Can it be two things at once? Yes, it can. It can be both outstanding and mild.
We're on Madison Avenue, baby. It can be anything we tell you it can be.
Don't be held back by reality. We have work to do.
There's no limit to what we'll tell you. I'm excited, Michael, to watch. I've been going back and like trying to watch shows that I didn't watch the first time they were on. And speaking about advertising in the '60s, I never got into Mad Men.
Aha.
And so I've started now to watch Mad Men. And it's a very interesting show, man. Very interesting. I mean, it's really, I mean, I wasn't in the advertising business back then, but it certainly has a lot of what you heard from people who worked in that business. Like customers of my father's worked in
Right.
the advertising business in Manhattan. Jackson Heights was a very popular place for, kind of mid-level advertising executives. I have several friends whose fathers worked in advertising, got on a train every day and went to Manhattan and
It was a huge industry in New York.
chased their secretaries up and down Madison Avenue.
Apparently.
It seems, according to Mad Men, it seems to be.
They caught a few of them too.
I was missing out. Who knew? I would have gone into Manhattan and been a copy boy or something, or figured something out.
A chaser.
Well, I was a chaser, but it was a different kind of chasing.
Yeah, you would have adapted well to that world, Vinnie.
I don't know, Michael. I'm not competitive like that. Unfortunately, I don't have that competitive.
Once you land a big account, then you get competitive.
Yeah. I mean, I got competitive when I was selling ad time. When I was at KKCY or KJazz or cable or a few of those stations, I was a lot more competitive. But I didn't. I don't know. I've always been much more of a creative. How are they doing? Taking the neighborhood apart out there. Yeah, I just I didn't like the business end of things.
We work for the city. We've come to take your neighborhood. We're going to ship it to Philadelphia to store up the freeway there.
Well, around here that's happening. We are more and more seeing, because where I live in Edmonds, there are single family houses with large lots. For some reason, the lots here are fairly big because they wanted separation between houses. So you get these huge lots, and what they have found is that, and the city has changed the zoning so that you can take that one family house with a certain large lot on it, maybe it has a shed in the back, and you can knock that house down and put up 6 or 8 condos.
Yep.
Townhouses. and so you are now an instant millionaire.
Yep.
You get financing for it. You go and you sell them, and they're selling for 700,000 a piece. And if you can put 6 of them up, you probably clear enough money off of that deal to make you okay for the rest of your life.
You can stop providing services for the people who just bought the condos.
Yeah, you can take off to Palm Springs, like all your friends are doing, or Palm Desert, which some of your friends are doing,
Or Indio,
which none of your friends are doing.
You'd be sorry you did that when it comes time for Coachella.
Or or the other town down, Calexico. Yes, you can go to Calexico.
Border towns can be fun.
It can be dangerous, but yeah, they can be fun. I used to go to Nogales a lot. That was a trip.
Now, if you were in charge of Coachella, would you prevent your next star from staging a ice skating extravaganza that went wrong? They install the ice rink. They take the ice rink out. They keep the ice rink skaters, but they use them walking in a circle to obscure the singer. It was one of the all-time show business low points of all, if anyone's career. And Coachella was right in the middle of it with their headliner doing that. And then they wanted to stop the dissemination of the video. They were doing cease and desist orders all over the web.
I love the fact that people that become popular because of the web, because of somebody interested enough to take a video, post it, now feel like they should control that facet of their career. If you're out there, you have to take for granted today that if you're out in the street, you're going to get filmed.
Yeah.
I don't like it. I don't think it's a good idea. I think it infringes on our privacy.
Comes in useful every once in a while when you're looking for somebody.
But the reality is that's America today. If you're out in the street, you have to suppose if you don't want to be filmed, you don't want to be recognized, get a mustache and glasses and and do a Bobby Valentine. It's just the reality of life today.
I don't know what city has the most cameras. It used to be London. I don't know if that's the case anymore.
Well, I have quite a few in Seattle. You have to take for granted that every other house has a Zoom, or not a Zoom, but what is it?
Some sort of porch security.
Whatever that porch camera is, because every time there's a crime, the police are asking people to send in their video so they can. You would think that would stop the crime because people would be afraid, but people now don't even have that fear anymore. The criminals don't have that fear anymore.
The criminals are more brazen, but they're less intelligent, less equal to the task of being a good criminal.
Well,
it takes some form of inventiveness to be a good criminal, and they just haven't got the goods
to be a successful criminal.
And the trade deadline for criminals is coming up on August 1st. So if you need a criminal and you have a hole in your criminal lineup, be sure to fill that, or the league will pass you by.
Well, I believe we're sending all the criminals to Chicago, aren't we?
Did not know that.
I think that's where we're sending them. I think that's the place that has decided they want to be the criminal capital. They want to relive the 1920s, the Roaring 20s.
Well, it's so cold and windy there. I don't think being a criminal. Couldn't we pick a warmer climb?
Well, they tried with Miami. I don't know what's going on down in Miami lately, but
there's going to be a lot of cops and federal authorities in Miami for the foreseeable future.
Yes. If you're a police officer or a federal agent in Miami or in the South,
overtime,
you probably are gonna be working some overtime the next few days at least.
And don't be above directing traffic. Sometimes Miami likes to close bridges so boats can get by. Make the boat wait. We got a trial to conduct here. We got people that have to get over the bridge. Let's go.
What a mess that's going to be, man. I was hoping that we would get past even talking about it, but it's the elephant in the room. I think you have to at least touch on it if you're doing what we're doing. Yesterday I texted a friend, and of course I saw Lindsey Graham on one of the I was on Stephanopoulos, and uh, you know the method of defense and attack that the Republicans seem to have chosen is to pull out one of their famous lines. What about Hillary Clinton? That's what Lindsey Graham gave us yesterday. What about Hillary Clinton?
What about Anton Chekhov? What about Solzhenitsyn? What about all
Yeah.
those great Russians?
What about Mussolini? What about Hitler?
What about Mussolini's girlfriend and her emails?
What about What about Lady Godiva?
What about Pol Pot? Nobody ever brings up Pol Pot, and he was a hard worker.
What about
Remember,
Peter
maybe
Gordon?
Eddie Izzard had a look at Pol Pot's diary. Kill, 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 lunch, killing, 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 break for dinner.
Was that a union shop?
No, it was not. In fact, they were taking out union leaders along with all the university professors. You know, Pol Pot had been a university professor. Guess who he eliminated in his
Hey,
first round?
listen, I'm going to go after the people who made me feel small.
Where did I come from? I came from the university. Bring all the professors in here.
Come on in. We're going to have a meeting. We'll be serving lunch.
Later.
Who will the lunch be? The cleaning staff.
Yeah. They make a great meat pie.
We're gonna go ahead with this prosecution of the president or the ex-president, as we well should. He seems to have done some things that rise to the standard of, at the very least, stupidity and disregard for the rule of law, and at the very most, espionage.
I think the espionage charge is the clearest of them all. Espionage and stupidity around it, the information that espionage product held.
Well, that's it. How much did he give to his friend Putin? How much did he give? Did he give anything? How much of it was just pure ego of him wanting to have this stuff in his place so that his friends can come in and, oh, look at what Donald's got.
When's the last time Trump gave anything to anybody? He charges for advice. He doesn't even give free advice.
Yeah.
So I don't think he gave that to anybody, Vinnie, but I think he may have come up with a transaction that was friendly toward him.
Well, yeah, the facts will come true, as they always seem to do in these things. Somebody always seems to come up with exactly what happened. I would suggest, if I were Hillary Clinton and I wasn't doing anything in the next few weeks,
stay out of the news, Hillary.
Once the trial starts, I would sign on with CNN or MSNBC or somebody, or maybe I would just go sit in the front row with my arms folded right behind Donald Trump and just spook the living crap out of him.
Did you see William Barr, the ex Minister of Justice for King Trump?
Yeah, it looked like Fred Flintstone trying to backpedal, trying to say, "Oh, this is bad news. This is bad stuff. This is."
He said, if half of it's true, he's toast.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean,
and a guy like Jim Jordan, that doesn't add up. That doesn't compute in Jim Jordan's mind. He can't figure out that the emperor really is having no clothes, really is in trouble, really is facing charges, really is going to prison. Not in Jim Jordan's mind.
Well, it's like Lindsey Graham. Lindsey Graham, I saw him yesterday, like I said, on Stephanopoulos, and it was sickening. It was like, is this guy is actually making laws? This guy is actually in charge of something. This guy actually has power. I mean, this is the lowest that America can offer. And then I said to myself, well, Vinnie, maybe you're wrong. because there is Marjorie Taylor Greene, who has been strangely silent so far.
She spoke of inciting violence when she spoke to the pact, the same one that Trump spoke to this weekend.
Oh, did she? Yeah. See, I can't even look at the Trump stuff. I don't. I'm so sick of seeing him and his face and his people and his minions and his family, and I just
certainly not the family. Uday and Uday. You're
Uday and
tired.
Tuesday. Yes. How could you forget those two lovable characters?
But you're tired of them. And what about their wives? They could bring their wives along. Would that help?
Well, the only wife that maybe I have a little bit of interest in watching is Jared Kushner.
I think he's the husband.
No, he's a wife.
Oh,
No. He may present as a husband, but believe you me, he's getting pushed around by his wife. He's a wife.
Well, he's in bed now with the Saudi Arabians with an investment plan, and that may sound good on the surface, but when things go sideways in Saudi Arabia, they have an odd way of curing the problem.
Yeah. Ask Khashoggi; he'll tell you.
So if they ever call you and tell you they want a meeting in Riyadh tomorrow morning, no.
Go the other way.
Go the other way.
Go the other way.
But you put a desert between them.
I just think that it's sad that, again, we're going to be consumed over Trump. We're going to be
you said it again, but it's never happened. We don't know what's going to happen.
By this, by this guy who makes no contribution to the country whatsoever, and the regular business of governing this nation, the things that have to get done, immigration reform, Social Security, figuring out what's going on with Social Security, figuring out what to do about medical costs and people that are dying, all the things that affect us on a daily basis are now going to get pushed to the side by Congress. The American people, the average people that are driving up and down the street, they're looking for a break. I don't think they care much that Donald Trump is getting indicted or not getting. They should, but I don't know that there's that much care or passion about it.
Well, Americans are traditionally far too stupid for their own good. But if, as a nation, they can't find a way to be interested in the fact that the president is being tried for serious crimes of espionage and providing a dangerous atmosphere for the intelligence product of our most secret information, if they can't be persuaded that that's an interesting or worthy approach to the use of their time, or something that they should stay equal with in the news, then they deserve all the terrible side effects that come from being too stupid to live in your own country.
Well, yeah, I mean, I think that's certainly, you need to follow it along, but and at least check in on it, know something about what's going on. It's a unique and fascinating civics lesson, if nothing else. Remember civics when they used to teach that in high school?
I had to take that, yeah.
Yeah, but when you have problems that need to be fixed, and the Congress is doing nothing about them.
Well, Jim Jordan's trying, but he's distracted by shiny things.
Yeah, which is the idea. I mean, if I've learned anything about politics, the idea is just distract people. Use whatever issue you can get the most fear out of, and use that to distract people away from what's going on while we fill our pockets.
And we're just fundraising for our legal fund, Vinnie. That's all. We're just putting together a fight to take it to the man.
Yeah, and Mikey, it used to be that when they were all stealing this, they would make sure that there was enough so that the people would be happy. Throw them a bone. throw them something. Now they don't even do that. Now they say, well, if we twist this around, we can make a little bit more money for our contributors, our supporters, or this or that.
I was in trouble, but now I'm really in trouble. Send me $50.
Right. It befuddles me that you have a country where a political figure can get in trouble, can attack somebody, um, can harm somebody, and raise money off it.
Yeah.
I mean,
and they do raise a great deal of money that way.
That's disgusting.
If Trump goes to jail, if he gets into that orange jumpsuit and goes to federal prison, he'll raise money from prison.
Yeah.
Send me $50. I want to buy cigarettes at the company store.
He's nothing but Elmer Gantry.
Praise the Lord.
Yeah. Praise the Lord and pass the dollar. I mean, he's nothing but Elmer Gantry. He's a snake oil salesman. He's a country preacher.
Yeah.
If they thought he knew which way to hold the Bible, they'd probably give him one. Tell him to stand up there with the Bible, but he doesn't know how to hold the damn thing.
Same thing with the snakes. The talkers of snakes and speaking in tongues. It's too dangerous for him. He could hold a garter snake, but it doesn't have the same effect. You practice with the garter snake till you're ready for the rattlesnake. No, not Donald. No, leave that.
No.
Leave
you hold the snake. I'll stand up here. And the scariest thing about it all, Michael, is the only guy that seems to want to. Well, it's two people, both of them deeply flawed, that want to stand up and say something about Trump on the Republican side, and that's Chris Christie and Asa Hutchinson. Those are the only two people that have the I don't know if you want to call it nerve, but have the ability to stand up on their own legs and say, this is wrong.
Also, because it's Monday and we haven't said it yet, I just wanted to say hang Mike Pence, and I want Mike to hear that just so he doesn't forget it. A lot of people hear that who among us has not heard our name called out by a mob saying that they wanted to hang us, and just write it off as, they're so spirited.
Oh, it's just Donald.
They didn't mean that. They said it, but they never meant it.
It's hilarious to me that well, no, actually, you know what, I say it's hilarious, and it's not hilarious. It's sad that we are in a world where people will look at this guy, this Donald Trump, and say that he is fit to be anything.
What's the percentage of those who actually believe that God sent Donald Trump? Don't know from where, don't know how he got him. Can you imagine that conversation that God had with himself? I want to send somebody to earth. Who can I do? I want him to be like a savior thing. Have I already done that with earth? No. Okay. I'm sending Donald Trump.
It wouldn't surprise me.
It's outside your expertise, I know, but I want you to go to earth and really give it your best.
It wouldn't surprise me if you drove, somewhere in the deep South or in Texas, and there was a little stand on the side of the road selling pictures of Donald Trump on the cross.
Sure.
In robes, with a little Jesus was persecuted too.
But Donald Trump's robes say Doral Country Club.
I'm surprised. And, Trump would pose for the picture. I mean, he wouldn't say just let's Photoshop this. Let me get up on the cross and pose for the picture.
Remember, religion is his favorite religion. What part of it? Oh, all of it. I just really like the religion.
They send the envelopes.
Yeah, that part.
You don't need any other part of religion except send the envelope.
You pass the plate, the cash goes into the system. We have a system. I can't talk about it because it's secret. And then we pass the plate again.
And when it fills up, we empty it out again. As a matter of fact, we've come up with a new addition to our system that has two plates.
And they pass simultaneously in the night.
They go from each, because some people are filling up the plates so fast the baskets, that we need to hurry it along. Last week, it took us an hour to do the collection. So many people were emptying their pockets.
And some of you are passing the plate instead of putting money into it. Remember, yes, pass the plate, but put money into it first. It can't be a second thought or an afterthought. Let's get the money out. Hold it in your hand. So you're committed to put it in the plate when it comes by.
Well, the one I like, I forget who I saw do it. Maybe it was Gene Scott, down there in Anaheim, in Orange County, who asked people to hold the money in their hands and raise it up to Jesus. Later to find out that Scott used to take the tapings and look at them to try to figure out how much in bills were being held up and see if the collection matched.
Oh, you mean he had some, God was skimming?
He wanted to make sure that the boys who were doing his collections for him weren't skimming.
I only took it to get a tank of gas. Forgive me, Father.
Yeah, forgive me, Father. I was just trying to buy some baseballs for the kids. Mikey, I you know me, I believe in religion and all that stuff, but boy, there are some days when I see people like that, I just say to myself, how could a true God, a true person who let something like, a true entity that is supposed to be for good, let something like that, the fleecing of old people, the fleecing of people who send their money to these guys. These people are sending their money to Trump. They're pensioners, man. They're people who can't afford it.
These are people who have faith, Vinnie. I want you to remember that. They have extraordinary faith. There's nothing in reality that will change their mind because they have faith, either in some religious form or in the case of the cult, they have faith in Donald Trump. That it's all going to work out. It's all going to be beautiful. But he does need $50.
You're $50. Too bad we couldn't get people to do that, Michael.
Well, our prayer cloth would have taken off if it hadn't been for all the cautionary. Our caution, they put a little label on it and fine print about what to do with it. Don't eat it. Don't put it in the dryer. Our prayer cloth warning tag was larger than the prayer cloth because of the way we were selling them. Don't. Prayers contained in this cloth can be ruined if this object is put in the dryer.
The problem is if you want to put it in the dryer, you had to use embroidered ones as opposed to silk screened ones.
And they were lovely.
Silk screen, the silk screening would come off in the dryer.
But our memorial map of Slovakia, that's going to turn out to be beautiful. People say
I still think we're going to do the prayer cloth, Mikey. I still, to this day, think that we are going to get things rolling, and we're going to do the prayer cloth, and we're going to have a Mikey and Vinnie marathon. We're going to see how many prayer cloths we can sell in 24 hours.
Remember the time when people used to come by and bring their pennies for the donation?
Yeah.
I can't remember what the donation was for.
Yes, it was for when the baseball strike happened. Remember the who was it? The cellular company at the time. I forget which one it was.
Pinball Cellular.
Yeah, was donating $100 for every home run that was hit to the Fremont Public Association and their baby boost program. And we
it was your idea.
Decided that because they weren't getting any money anymore from the baseball, because baseball was on strike, nobody was hitting home runs, that we would try to do something to compensate for that. So we asked people to go and take their pennies that they, throw into a dish on their dresser, just take them and send them to us. And then we sat out on the sidewalk one day, and I forget how many thousands of dollars we raised in pennies. But, I think we raised over $10,000.
And was there a preacher photographing the exchange of pennies to make sure we gave them all to the charity?
I don't think so. I think I think they wound up making a ton of making it. As a matter of fact, I remember we projected how many home runs the Mariners might hit in that year, and we had figured out that we had raised almost two times the number of the money that the Mariners would have contributed to the baby boost program.
Well, the Mariners as a reliable source of home runs is
Well, but
always
those
been
were the days
doubtful.
they were hitting some home runs. So, matter of fact, remember they were leading the league, I think, or maybe they were second to the Yankees in home runs, and they couldn't get arrested. But
I don't remember that. I do remember the pennies. My point being that would be a good way to raise money for the prayer cloth. And a lot of course, you have to mail the prayer cloth, but you could do a quick exchange on the sidewalk. Pennies for prayers, we'll call it.
I think that Mikey, I think that we're on to something.
And it's so easy because the prayers are preloaded into the cloth. There's thousands of them in there. All you got to do is put it on your radio, and the system works beautifully.
Yeah, I mean, the Mikey and Vinnie prayer is right there. Help me, Rhonda. I mean, it's right on the, you know.
And Rhonda was helped in so many ways.
Yes, Rhonda was an interesting case because she was a helper and a helpee.
But no matter what you do, you couldn't get her out of your heart.
Nope, bow, 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 bow. No matter how hard you. See, that's what we need, Mikey. We need a 24-hour prayer cloth marathon where we will just stand up there and we'll have the
on April Fool Day.
The guys sing that great song that
You'll Never Walk Alone.
No, well, you know, Mikey, that see if I can call it up. No, it's the one that Reverend Scott used to use all the time. Always
play it again.
What is it? I want to know.
Well, you can want to know. You just can't have the answer around prayer around Reverend Scott, the Doctor Reverend or the Reverend Doctor.
All right, let's see if this works. I'm just playing it kind of cold. Play it again. Oh no, I want to know that Jesus welcomes me there. I do not want
to know. Can't hear it too well.
See, we had that snappy little song.
That reminds me.
It was always great because the guys would stand by the piano and dressed in like sharkskin suits.
Get that Robert Hall 2 pair of pants.
You know how many times I heard that song stoned out of my face?
No, but I want to know.
Well, you know, Gene Scott was on, you know, over 24 hours, so you'd come home,
Channel
and
36,
there was actually a time
32.
when there was not much on television at night.
Right.
And you turn Gene Scott on, and it would be an 8-hour comedy show.
It was funny when he would read a horror. He would read from a novel that had something terrible happen to the narrator, and he wouldn't read anymore until you sent him money.
Yeah.
Well, we're going to leave it right there until the coffers are filled. When the Lord says we have enough, then I'll read more.
He was a master boy. He knew how to manipulate and how to work out of that television screen, man. I think better than anybody I'd ever seen, except maybe for Reverend Ike.
He made so much money, he went quite crazy.
Yeah, he really did. He really went wacko. I mean, he really, I don't know if he was doing a lot of blow or what his story was. But yeah, he went nuts. But he, you know, I mean, in going nuts, he went nuts in style. He had a bunch of cars and, a couple of houses, big new church in Anaheim
You
that
couldn't
they
tell Cal
built.
Worthington from Gene Scott. Was that Cal or was that Gene? He had so much to do with cars.
Well, it was funny. I went to school with the guy who looked exactly like Gene Scott.
Uh-oh.
And I thought when I first got to California, I first saw Gene Scott because we didn't have him back in New York,
No.
when I was there at least. When I first encountered Gene Scott on a 24-hour binge I was on at 3 o'clock in the morning on the television set, sitting in that seat talking about crazy stuff. I was looking, I was like, this guy's John Riley.
Oh.
I mean, he really is. This guy, I mean, I think this guy really isn't, and I actually tried to figure out, you didn't have the internet in those days. And I tried to figure out if it was actually this guy, John Riley. It wasn't, but it looked so much like him that I was like, oh man. But he was entertaining, Gene Scott. I mean,
He was a crazy man. Everyone can find him on YouTube. Vinnie, I have to run, but I'll see you on a wacky Wednesday or maybe on a tumultuous Tuesday. You want to do it tomorrow?
Let's see what.
Let's see what happens. We'll do it Wednesday.
Yeah, see what. Let's do Wednesday. But you know what? Keep your eye open because you may see us tomorrow. Who knows?
Gotta go.
Bye. Sometimes you got to go. All right. Thank you so much for listening to our show. We'll catch up with you Wednesday morning if the Lord's will and the creek don't rise. All right. Have a good one. Stay faithful. Peace, love, Manischewitz, baby. Bye-bye.